Good afternoon. Welcome to Sky Crime. After the recent murder case of 20-year-old student Jane Doe in Glasgow, the suspect has finally revealed by Police Scotland, Mr. Love, a 40-year-old janitor. Here today with us is forensic psychologist Aleena Hanif, who will be interviewed on criminal profiling. Hi Aleena, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So, Alina, how has criminal profiling evolved from the introduction of crime scene analysis by the FBI to the methods being used today by the Serious Crime Analysis section of the National Crime Agency in the UK?
So, firstly, criminal profiling is an investigation and behavioural analysis tool used to support the prediction of the characteristics of unknown criminal suspects by investigators. A police detective named Howard Tetton, who had joined the FBI in 1962, had seen connections between his studies in abnormal psychology to crime scene investigations. He then went on to study his theories more extensively by using solved cases for 7 years. This further developed into the FBI's Behavioural Science Unit, which was originated to consult with criminal justice professionals around the world on various strange, abnormal, and unorthodox cases. This unit consisted of 10 agents to begin with, and they analysed the rising cases of homicide and sexual assault in the early 1970s. They were taught to generate profiles of potential suspects, examine crime scenes, and hypothesise of the likely scenario of how the crime took place. The early FBI profilers, John Douglas and Robert Ressler, began collecting a database on offenders by travelling to prisons all across the States. They analysed interviews of 36 imprisoned serial predators and examined their characteristics. Subsequently, Douglas and colleagues developed profiles of organised and disorganised offender behaviour. Similarly, the crime scene analysis section in the UK was introduced to identify at the earliest possible stage of offending the potentiality of the emergence of serial rapists or killers. The SCAS was developed after the examination of the Yorkshire Ripper inquiry, which signified the importance of the need for a data set to keep details of serious offences in the UK. The Yorkshire Ripper was a serial killer who attempted to murder 7 women and succeeded in murdering 13 others. The SCAS uses the method of coding cases onto the database to be ready for analysis. There are high priority cases selected by the importance of which pose the most risk to public.
Okay. Can you explain the ways that criminal profiling has been evaluated to show the validity of the processes?
So there does exist a controversy on whether profiling holds any validity. Theorists argue the techniques used in criminal profiling is reductionist and flawed, according to Wilson and colleagues. It's also argued through a meta-analysis by Christina and colleagues that criminal profiling is not backed by empirical evidence on the way it actually functions, and there's actually no evidence of validity, which was argued in a systematic review on the analysis of criminal profiling validity. On the other hand, Coxis and colleagues maintain that there have been significant advancements in profiling processes through the advancements of forensic tools, particularly geographical profiling, and that even police officers are big believers in the great results from the application of profiling. A field study was also conducted where 2 police officers accumulated data from the UK police on numerous cases. Those officers reported findings of small evidence of profiling being accurate and resulting in substantial arrests. Allison and colleagues also conducted a rigorous evaluation of profile accuracy on police officers. After presenting half participants with a genuine profile and the other half with a fabricated one, they were asked to conduct accuracy ratings on their descriptions. The findings showed there was no difference in accuracy ratings between the genuine offender and the fabricated one. So this does raise concern about the validity of profiling, particularly if the participants were trained police officers.
How has psychological theory contributed to our understanding and development of criminal profiling techniques?
So, a psychological theory which does relate to the development of profiling techniques is the routine activity theory, developed by Cohen and colleagues. So, the theory argues that when a crime takes place, there are three factors which emerge for a predator criminal to succeed. Those are a possible offender, an appropriate target, and the absence of a guardian. Although this theory does not explain crimes which are committed between trusted relationships and the inadequate scope of the age of a victim who may not require a guardian, however, this theory does still help profilers analyse how criminals pick their targets and who likely motivates them to offend, and the significance of a guardian, which all helps the profiler to analyse crime patterns and to develop accurate profiles. Another theory which contributes to the development of profiling is crime pattern theory, introduced by Brantingum and colleagues. It essentially highlights the intersection of the activity space of a criminal and the victim. The activity space refers to the routine and social environments in which criminals cross paths with their victims. This theory helps profilers focus on specific geographical spots with a concentration of crime, further supporting the identification of likely locations for future crimes. However, it solely focuses on the short-term patterns and locations of an offender and doesn't take into account of the dynamic changes. Another theory, the rational choice theory, focuses on the potentiality of a criminal's rationality in choosing to commit a crime. It states the motivation of an offender committing the crime. It's from the influence of their need to minimise risk and maximise the reward. In doing so, they're weighing up their options in their cognitive assessment of risk, effort, and cost to themselves. Profilers can analyse the decision-making process and rationality of criminals from this theory and the cognitive motivations before committing a crime in order to compose the profiles and evaluate the likeliness of future offences. Nevertheless, a major flaw of this theory is that profilers cannot rely on the rationality of the offenders due to the many influences which can affect it, social, cultural, emotional and biased factors which can all change the way an offender is thinking, resulted in unfounded choices made.
Thank you. Can you explain some of the ethical challenges that should be acknowledged in using criminal profiling in a police investigation?
So there are several ethical issues which need to be addressed, which arise when using criminal profiling in police investigations. Well, one of them is cultural and racial stereotyping and biases, which can lead to wrongful targeting and false information on criminal profiles, making it more difficult to find the actual offender. For example, North American profiles have a strong stereotype of considering African Americans as the more prominent race for serial rapes and crimes in general. This generalisation obviously sets a very dangerous precedent of wrongfully convicting individuals through no fault of their own. According to Allison and colleagues, to rightfully convict a criminal, many resources need to be used in order to verify the correct conviction, particularly in complex cases where only a profile cannot be solely relied upon. As mentioned before, there's a lack of scientific validation on criminal profiling where there is no concrete empirical research showing that it does in fact lead to offenders being convicted. Profilers might obtain information that match their own initial profile, unintentionally, possibly even overlooking facts against their expectations. Gathering enough information for profiles may be done through unethical means of deception and infringing on an individual's privacy, which can be argued is the only way that profiles can be constructed. However, what if those being covertly investigated have no relation to a crime? There also seems to be very little regulation in the development of profiling and no apparent regulations and ethical standards in place that legally are adhered to, which is problematic to say the least. But as perceived, unethical conduct and violations of the mechanism can go unnoticed, leading to legal repercussions. In particular, there are reports of poor recording practices of statements and the conduct of obtaining eyewitness testimonies.
Would you say that crime linkage analysis, geographical profiling, or crime scene analysis is more effective?
So crime linkage analysis identifies crimes that are likely committed by the same suspect, and Woodham and colleagues state that behavioural similarities are closely examined across crimes, which is how they are able to link two or more crimes together. Geographical profiling refers to propinquity and the morphology, where it is argued offenders operate near where they live, whereas morphology focuses on the details of the crime scene. Crime linkage analysis focuses on the identification of patterns, resulting in the linking of multiple offences, which can be a very effective method actually of profiling, as multiple cases are taken into consideration. However, there does need to be extensive information on each case before the links and patterns between cases can be identified to ensure that there's no oversight. This can be a very time-consuming and complex method of profiling. Now, geographical profiling can be seen as a vital method of finding an offender and narrowing down the exact location for a search area or for local authorities, which effectively helps in convicting criminals in an efficient manner. This method also supports the profilers in acquiring knowledge of any further crimes that could be likely to take place in certain locations, or which strategically limits the likelihood of additional crimes, and the deployment of the police is streamlined and systemised in those locations. However, this method solely relies on the patterns and behaviours of criminals staying the same, but over time they are likely to evolve and change their plans to keep from getting caught. Now, crime scene analysis may be seen as the most efficient method as evidence, which can be used almost instantaneously, which is crucial for criminals to be caught at the earliest stage possible. Yet this method only focuses on the immediate evidence that is collected, and newer information is not taken into account, which can be detrimental to a case and result in wrongful conviction. The effectiveness of these methods can be very circumstantial to the specific crime, and each of these has been successfully used in one way or another. Some have been combined together for profilers to obtain the exact correct information on the offender. The application can vary, and nonetheless, all these techniques have been proven to be effective in some shape or form.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.